Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Quixotic topic. As always, I'm your host, Daquan, and today I'm joined by
Henry.
and
Jorge.
and
Cameron.
and today we will be talking about the conclusion of senior year and other things related to graduation, and at for some extent the finality that comes with leaving your previous high school. And so, Henry, I want to start with you. How do you feel? I guess, especially graduating now, especially given our times here at given the coronavirus forcing all of us to be in our homes.
So I really would have liked to have a prom and walk across the stage, but obviously that's not going to happen anymore. I really wanted to end senior year with a bang. Like this last semester, I was going to put everything in, which I still was able to do with online classes. I would manage to get two A's and a B this last semester. But like still having that finality of walking across the stage with everyone cheering for you and seeing your friends in the back and just getting your diploma and also going to prom, which I was gonna go to my junior prom, but I wanted to save it and make it a one-time thing to make it really special, and I couldn't even get that. So this senior year, it's been okay, but it could have been a lot better.
Definitely, definitely. It feels that there's a sense of something that was like stolen from you, right?
Yeah.
In the sense that some just random pandemic comes, and specifically the class of 2020 are the ones that get the short end of the stick, in a sense. Jorge, your thoughts on this?
It's pretty disappointing to see an entire graduating class having to suffer the incapability of walking across the stage because thinking about it, some of the people who have attended high school are looking at graduation as the finish line.
Right.
These people don't really have another goal in mind, I suppose, in the future to receive another diploma. This is some people's last chance to get a diploma, walk a stage, and possibly join either the military or the workforce. So it's really hard to see some people, or I guess in this topic, the entire class of 2020 not be able to have just that memorable feeling of walking across the stage and getting
Right,
the
exactly.
diploma.
Like
So,
that accomplishment just isn't there. And so, Cameron, as someone who hasn't gotten their graduation stolen from you, how do you receive this situation? Especially hearing all of these tales of people who have essentially been slighted.
Um, when it comes to me, since I'm a junior, I, uh, for these times, it's been nothing, sadly, and I'm sorry, but like nothing has been taken away from us. Um, basically, we got an easy schedule. All we got to do is just get online, do work, and that's it. We're done for the rest of the year. Uh, Unfortunately for you guys, you got that part taken away. We still have that chance to get it. The only bad thing is communication with everybody going into, see, junior year is where you start looking and trying to get into colleges, and sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not, especially when it comes to these SAT, ACT testing.
Right, those did get canceled, right?
Not all of them.
Oh, okay.
Especially for the college that I'm applying to, it's not at all. And for some of the testing dates and all that, being trying to arrange that, that's difficult.
So, do you feel a bit wary going forward in a sense of like, well, how do things kind of return to the normalcy? Because like, can you picture yourself walking across the stage now, especially since we've been in quarantine for so long?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
How do you feel about it, Cam? Like, has your perception on graduating changed, seeing that like we won't have it, but you still can?
See, with you guys, it's still like, because all my friends are seniors. I was just straight up. All my friends are seniors. I'm going to be basically alone. I still have that chance to get up on that stage. So for me, it's my time to
It's your time to what now? Shine? Shine. Okay.
Shine, yeah.
He's motioning to me that he means shine. And so, me personally, I'll talk about how I experienced senior year over at the North Carolina School of Science and Mathematics. It was quite interesting to see like everything change so suddenly, in a sense, because I remember going into my senior year, I genuinely expected that I would be able to walk across the stage, especially seeing that in my space, my situation was somewhat particular because my junior year, I decided not to go to my other seniors graduate, the class before me, because I went to an anime convention. And so I have effectively never seen a graduation at NCSSM, and now I never will. And so it's kind of like, well,
That convention was amazing, though.
the anime convention was very good. I do appreciate the decision, and if I went back, I probably would still have made it. But now, like, not graduating, I feel, well, not graduating in the typical means, I feel a lot less connected to the whole like realm of school, because especially like as soon as we went home, I didn't really contact anyone from school if I didn't have to. Like, I would go into the Zoom class, mute my mic, mute my camera, and that's it. Just be in class, and it became very industrial, kind of a cycle of just like getting classes done and turning them in. It takes out a very human aspect of school, I think, and I think that that's something that honestly really keeps school like existing, in a sense, is that it's very humanizing, in a sense that you get a humanistic education along with your technical one. Like, you don't just learn math at school, you learn math next to your friends, you make meaningful interpersonal connections, you go through drama with your friends. All of these things work on you and mature on you, and like not getting the last half of their senior year, it's kind of like, well, you kind of already have it at that point, because what is graduation if not kind of just like a cap off to all of your high school experience? It's supposed to be summative, right? I think that not having a graduation just kind of, instead of a cap, it's more like a cup, in a sense. Is that there just isn't really a lid on it. I think taking the more like optimistic aspect of this, I think because of quarantine ending and us not getting to graduation, we're able to have a more open-ended approach to what we plan to go through in the future. Because when you are graduating, like immediately everyone is always asking, well, where are you going, what are you doing, and how are you doing it? Now you don't have that. You can just, after school finishes, you just sit and just like let that be with you. And so Jorge, I want to ask, you had a somewhat turbulent time at school, Harding University High School, if I'm correct.
Okay.
How did you feel like the moment you graduated? Like, what kind of was that tipping point that let you have that air of finish?
You know, let me tell you, there were two very distinct feelings to which I felt in senior year. There were two specific feelings that I was naming for it. It was the feeling that I would get when I got accepted into the colleges that I applied to, and the ultimate feeling of graduation day. Just that ability to be able to walk the stage, grab that diploma, look over the crowd of people celebrating the entire class of 2020 and all of our hard work that we put in. That was gonna be the ultimate finish off. That was gonna be the end of all the hard work that I knew and the entire class knew, and all the people, or at least what would have been the entire crowd celebrating for us,
Feel like
knew
there's
that.
a void?
Sorry?
Do you feel like there's a void not having that graduation?
Oh, most definitely. Now, it's not gonna feel the same when I go to pick up my diploma, or if my diploma gets mailed to me. Now, don't get me wrong, Daquan. It's good to have this view of optimism in the most dire situations, but you also have to realize that in certain situations, you can always go around those with like the alternatives.
Uh-huh.
But
uh-huh.
but in my personal opinion, the alternatives that we were given as CMS as a whole, CMS being Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools, we weren't given many alternatives.
Mhm.
And so what I decided to do was I decided to further my research and see what the surrounding counties have decided to do for graduation for the high schools. So there was one county, I can't remember the name of it specifically, but one county decided that it was okay for some schools to use their football stadium as their place of graduation.
Right, to commence the ceremony.
Right.
And so they would like space all of the seats out. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
have
heard
seen
Olympic doing that.
yeah, I have seen some schools online doing that, but none like close to me. But apparently Olympic does.
Yeah, see, but what the district has offered the schools was to do it over a recording that would be posted online or a Zoom call. That's, like I said,
It's derivative.
right. Yeah, no, exactly. So, like I said before, it's good to have this optimistic approach into a dire situation. However, it doesn't mean that
The
class of-
situation isn't there.
Right, and the class of 2020 doesn't have the right to feel the way that we do, because I'm sure that there's more seniors out there like that would want a stage, that would want to hear live speeches, that would want to just have that feeling of just being able to just grab that piece of paper and say I did it.
Right.
Because like I said before, some of these seniors, like, this is the finish line.
They really did it.
Like, yeah, like, that's it. Some of these people are going into the workforce. Some of these people are going into the military. And this is the ends of all ends for them. So I just want to empathize for them, because
Right, exactly.
yeah, because they don't get the same feeling that the rest of the graduating classes have received before, and the future graduating classes that they'll be experiencing down the road.
They're like a blip, and then especially because when it comes to graduating now, if there is a ceremony that is held like later on in time, it'll feel like it just came too little too late. Henry, your thoughts?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I feel like in this situation, you never know what you have until you lose it. Like, when everything was normal, before we even knew about Corona was a thing, we were taking graduation for granted. We were just thinking, oh, it's gonna be a thing that happens because it happens for everyone else. But until that like thing is taken from you, you don't realize, dang, I'm not gonna get that finish line. I'm not gonna be able to cross it. For me, my school, we're having a pre-recorded video sent to us in a couple weeks, and we had to go pick up our diploma from the office the next day.
Wow.
Exactly, like that's. I don't feel proud of that.
Right.
I was hoping to like see all my friends walk across the stage. I walk across the stage and see them do dumb stuff, maybe slip on the stairs going up or something.
Right. You wanted to have that experience so that you could have it for yourself. And like, to some degree that may seem selfish, but at the end of the day it really isn't, because it's like you get put into the school system, and I'm think it's fair to say that we all have our own separate gripes about the school system in general.
Of course.
Yes, yeah. A lot of people do, especially like putting away your pride and like going into that and dedicating yourself to school, doing all of that, and just for it to just kind of like, well, I mean,
Yeah.
here you go. It's like it doesn't feel worth it anymore. I think that with some mindsets, it's very easy to look back at it and like invalidate the experience, and it's like, well, was this even worth it? I think that this could set a very negative precedent for a lot of people, because if they don't get this kind of solidified degree, if they don't get this and they look at it as if they look back at their past experiences and they can't see like the good in them, they can only see that their means wasn't to an end, how is that going to affect everything that they do going forward?
So, for me, all I can say is that in every situation that you're in, you have to look on the bright side, especially in this one. for example, for us seniors who are graduating and going to college, just take this time to really talk to your family. Like, don't take granted for every second, because you're not gonna have this much time with your family when you go off to college.
Yeah, I do think that there is a lot of silver linings that have been created here, but just talking about the coronavirus at large, it has ruined a lot of people. Literally, like there has been a lot of people that have been laid off because of this, and we have to kind of like dance around this. There's only so much you can say without sounding in a specific way to keep this apolitical, but there's not much wiggle room for being like in a pandemic, in a sense. It's like it's very boxy. It's hard to kind of visualize like the next day when it all looks the same and all kind of like bleeds together. I think that I'm wondering if this is just like how we're perceiving this, in a sense. Of course I don't say that to invalidate anything, but like just wondering how, like, because this isn't the first time something like this has happened.
Right.
There was Hurricane Katrina, which had like decimated buildings, like thousands and thousands, like a lot of people got their lives ruined, and an entire graduating class didn't get their diplomas. But as opposed to like not getting your diploma because it's a threat to be within 6 feet of someone, they didn't get their diploma because there wasn't a building to make them. And that's
What do you mean
not
by that?
well, because
destroy-
Hurricane Katrina like destroyed
Yeah.
buildings. Yeah.
Right.
And so like I don't say that to compare them but I do. I think it's interesting to really like be in this moment, because we're living through history in a sense, because it's like Hurricane Katrina is something that was recorded and will probably be studied by meteorologists for eons to come. Probably not, but to think about like how this affects us in the future is definitely something that has been on my mind for a while, because it's like, well, how is it going to be 50 years from now when we tell our grandkids about stories of coronavirus and how it ruined everything for us, and like how are our kids going to look at this? And it also made me think about like, well, how do I look at stories that old people tell me? Cameron.
Because like I hear a lot from adults that after you get out of high school, once you go to college, you're basically, college is when you get ready for the real world, or college is when the real world starts. Because you didn't have that graduation, that getting that diploma on that stage, do you feel like it's like you're not ready for the real world yet because of that? You weren't prepared, or not being, is it like a piece missing? You get what I'm saying?
Not
That's
at
a
all.
good question.
No. Well,
Go ahead.
receiving the diploma is just a way of saying, like,
You did it.
yeah, like,
It's an accomplishment.
Right,
It's
yeah.
it's
The
a
icing on the cake.
it's a pointer to an accomplishment. It's a like notifier. I'm assuming we're all in agreement here when we say that like the preparation for high school, like, well, not high school, but the preparation for the future, we already have that.
right.
Yeah.
Right, we have that. Like what the problem is that we're not getting recognized for having that.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And I think building on from that, it would be interesting to see like, is there a different way to be recognized for that? Because
Is
it's
that
like
alternative? Like, is that what you mean? by that?
and I'm not talking about alternatives in terms of like different ways to do graduations, such as like renting out stadiums or whatnot,
Right,
or
right,
like
right.
getting like big huge grassy plains to separate everybody, like a baking sheet. I think that when you get to the real world, is that going to be enough of a notifier that like, yeah, you did high school, like you're ready for this?
Well, when it comes to recognition on going through one of the toughest times that we've been through, specifically in the U.S., we have been recognized by many big figureheads like
Right, exactly.
Barack Obama, comedians, politicians. They've taken the time out of their day to create videos for us and just tell us thank you, and that to just have this continuity to just pursue your next goal and just go forth.
Right.
Which I really do appreciate. Like, that's a great thing that we were still able to receive that recognition from these big figureheads so that it would give us the motivation for us to pursue something greater or further. Now, saying this, it's still not the same feeling that you'll get when you walk that stage. Now, this isn't me being selfish,
Right.
but just thinking logically, thinking ethically, you know, like you have
It just isn't the same.
yeah, no, like watching Obama speak to the whole graduating class and just saying congratulations is not the same feeling as grabbing the diploma and just seeing everybody clap for you at the same time and just saying this is what 4 years was worth for. And so that's just my point of view.
Definitely. And I would like to take a moment to say thank you to all of the essential workers out there. This podcast probably would not have been able to happen without your work. Thank you for keeping our citizens healthy and fed.
Yes, thank you.
The Quixotic topic sponsors doctors. but I do think that, like, just my personal experience talking about this again, the Quixotic, well, not the Quixotic topic, but the coronavirus has given me a lot of time with myself. Time to think, in a sense, like time to just ponder where I am in the real world. And I realized that, like, and I think this is something that a lot of 18-year-olds come to, is that the real world is just always there. There isn't like something separate from the real world. And like this is self-evident because no one really says, like, it doesn't have its counterpart. Like no one says like, oh, it's the real world and the fake world. People just say like, oh, well, in the real world.
Right.
Semantics aside, it's interesting to see like kind of how much value we place on this transition of like getting there to the real world when in reality you've already there and you've been there like all of your life.
What classifies as the
feel
real
like-
world?
I think that
I feel like the real world
you go
is
first.
the transitioning from becoming a kid to an adult.
Mature.
Because, yeah, becoming mature. Your whole life you spent in school. Your parents have been taking care of you. And now you're going to college. You're still in school, but now you're going to have to be taking care of yourself. And I feel like that's the first layer of the real world that you get to see. And then after college, you're not in school anymore and you have to take care of yourself. Your parents may still help you a little bit, but that's the real world. When you have to pay your own taxes, your own bills.
Right.
Your parents aren't always there when you wake up, like yelling at you to go to school or catch the bus.
when you
You're gonna
pick
miss
up
that.
Yeah, when you pick
Yeah.
up a bit more like civic responsibilities and duties, essentially, I believe that like, of course, like trying to stay apolitical, I think that given how our government is structured, I think that the real world is kind of not necessarily like an actual just like different realm that you ascend to once you get like this ancient knowledge of taxes
Right,
and
yeah.
having a job. But I think the real world is just like having more expectations, because like in a sense, as you mature, other than like the morphological maturation in terms of like puberty and whatnot, as you mature, you just get more expectations placed on you. Like
That's
you're
true.
expected to behave, you're expected to adopt specific social conventions. You're expected to talk a certain way. You're expected to know a base amount of things.
Right.
Like it's not necessarily like the real world as much as it's just expectations. I think that like one of the main reasons why high school graduating is so important is because that is kind of like the last remnant of not having that expectation. You're able to take the sum total of all of your experience as a child and like cap it off and like wrap it in a very neat bow with graduation. And so when you find yourself operating under these expectations for, when you think about it, like the majority of your life, you can always look back and focus on that particular moment. It's very pristine and clean way of doing it, in the sense of like, as opposed to remembering like trace specific memories, such as escapades that you got onto when you were on the bus in middle school, or your first crushed in elementary school, or the first time you failed a test or whatever. Instead, you can just focus on graduation. And I think this is kind of where, I don't want to say I'm like anti-graduation, but I'm a little bit more content with not having it. Because I think that because of the fact that we don't have graduation, we have to cling to other things. Like, our memories are going to have to reach just a little bit farther in order to bring stuff that reminds us of when we didn't have these expectations, when we weren't in the real world. And so that poses kind of an interesting dilemma for Cameron here, because he will have graduation, at least if things pan out correctly. And so how does that kind of, how do you approach, like, I guess this is asking you to think like very far in the future. How do you approach remembering where you are now?
Rephrase. Like.
Okay. How would, when you are older, how would you recollect past memories?
Like if you were like in your 30s
Yeah.
and you want to think about the times that you didn't have as many responsibilities that you per se currently have. And so, like, let's say you want to reach back into like 10th grade and remember something like, oh yeah, I did that. Like, how would you necessarily rekindle that memory?
So with me, just I don't know why, I'm just like a walking telltale game. See, anything that I find enjoyable is something that I remember. So I feel like when it comes to graduation, when I have graduation, if and when, depending on how much of a good experience it is, good or bad, I'm still going to remember it. It just depends on how it is for me, basically, to sum it down. Yeah.
Henry,
Yeah.
same question. How do you, now that you aren't going to be graduating, how would you go back and recollect?
Like, are you asking?
Like, what do you think is going to be your methodology for remembering this? It's like, if you had to
okay.
tell this story, like, if you had to tell like Corona times to your kids, whatnot,
See,
like, what are some of the things that you would highlight about this?
I
There's
would
some good
highlight
things,
just- Okay, so I'll start off with the good things. Like, I would tell my kids the story of, for some reason, everyone had diarrhea and we just ran out of toilet roll because everyone wanted to hoard them. And, like,
I would.
You would hoard toilet paper?
Yeah.
Why?
you really
I need
had-
that story.
You are a part of society that does not think.
What was
Yup.
the internet?
Like,
I would tell my kids that for me, I have been able. My siblings are three. My siblings are four.
I forgot how old
4
your
and
siblings
6.
are.
Oh my god. Okay, wait, no, I'm messing up. My sister is 4 years old.
Uh-huh.
My brother is 8.
Are you sure about that?
Yes, I'm sure about
All
that.
right.
Okay. And like having such young siblings, I haven't been able to really build that much of a strong connection with them. Like always going to school and back. But like this Corona whole thing has gave me some time to really focus on those connections, because especially now I'm just going to be off to college and I won't see them as much. But that's one of the things I would tell my kids, that in those situations, I'll use this Corona situation, like even though I was in a bad situation, even though we've lost people to this whole thing, there's always a bright side. You just have to look for it.
Right. And so, Cameron, you touched on this a little bit when you talked about the toilet paper hilarity. One thing that is interesting to now that we have ended our senior year, one like common thing is that like everyone wants to like keep in touch, or like everyone wants to like stay connected and whatnot. Everyone, like, in a sense, we've already somewhat done that, unless you haven't, of course. But I wonder how you guys feel about like experiencing society from the comfort of your own home. Like sitting on a couch and like browsing Instagram and Twitter and whatnot, and like seeing what people are doing, like watching people hoard tissue and whatnot, watching people do like all of these like ridiculous things. It would seem that there's definitely been a tonal shift in how like society operates, and that is in itself is self-evident. But I wanted to ask you guys like your experience of just like coming to the revelation of like there is a part of society who just does not think.
Yeah, no. So you'll always have your group of people in whatever society you currently live in that just listen to people like Trump. Like,
Right, there's always bad apples.
Like, yeah, like who in their right mind will inject themselves with Lysol? Like, nobody is going to do that. But
Yes, Cameron?
No.
you know,
Okay.
during this whole, like, okay, in experiencing society from the point of view of in my own room,
Right.
you know, just browsing the internet the entire time, seeing what people are up to, it's different because I was also at one point used to just going out doing things what people would call the normal way of
Right,
things.
the normal, like just being out, being very metropolitan, especially in a developed society such as ours.
Yeah, exactly. And so currently, I work from home.
Right.
You know, I work on a computer, basic hours, 6 to 8 hours a day. It's different. It's very different because I'm not as interactive as I would be at work. Rather, I'm just looking at my computer for X amount of time, and like that just counts as my shift. And it's a very weird transition to make, especially when you had to make the transition so quick because there was no warning, there was nothing to really prepare for that. But just kind of looking how society operates, it kind of gives me hope at the same time because we're okay.
Right.
Like,
we were able to get together and record this podcast because we were all like healthy enough and not diagnosed. I still do technically think we're breaking social distancing, but this lawnmower is too. I apologize for the
Come on.
for the loud noise. We do our best here at the Quixotic topic.
This, I want to say that this, like, Corona time things has allowed me to get in, like, contact with my friends better because, like I said before, all my friends are seniors. All of you guys are seniors. I'm not. You guys are always either doing something busy, and there's always those rare occasions where we can meet up and talk and chat. Now, because I've had so much free time, and you guys have too, I'm able to communicate with you guys better, especially since you're about to go off to college where
Right.
I really won't have the time to do that. Or
It's
you
an
guys won't
everyday
have the
thing.
time. Yeah, it's feeling good to like be able to do that before you guys go off and to that next part of your life.
Definitely. I think that like it's kind of the coronavirus has definitely been keeping the analogy going. It's definitely been very much a hurricane throughout a lot of people's lives, especially mixing up things so that people will mow their grass at the exact time we're trying to record.
who mows their lawn at 8:30 at night? Come on.
Hey man, when you have free time, you need something to do.
I guess I mean like we're here sitting like
So much
talking,
free
so I guess we can't really compare it. But this is ridiculous.
Priorities. Yeah,
Right.
my point on like seeing the world functioning, I also agree with him. I also agree with like I also have hope for society. It's kind of reassuring that even though this whole thing is worldwide, we're still somewhat functioning. No one, or at least no one that I've known at least, has just gone up and jumped on the bridge. Like, we still have hope for each other, and these dark times is where we see the light.
Are all of you okay? Like
Yeah, no.
nothing's happened. Like
well,
this
I
has
mean, like-
how has this affected you guys? Like family wise.
Well, yeah, like my family has been gracious enough to be healthy and in good graces.
Same with mine.
Like we haven't been. Luckily, like we were stable enough to not be absolutely uprooted by the coronavirus. But like I guess the dismal tone that comes with talking about this comes to the fact, it comes with the knowledge of knowing that like there are people out there that do not know where they're going to be sleeping tomorrow. There's people who do not know what their next plate is going to be, and like they haven't for a long time now because of Corona. And granted, that does exist regardless of a virus, and that gets into a more political discussion on the redistribution of wealth. But that's not what the topic is today. Yes, but indeed. I think that when it comes to like a global kind of thing that affects people so much, it forces us to be a bit more empathetic with people.
Right.
Just like, because it's like, and this is somewhat rude, but you really don't have all that much else to do.
Right.
Like, I think this is another point. And this is somewhat of a serious topic, and I apologize for introducing it just so out of the blue, but there were no school shootings in March. None.
Oh, right.
There were no school shootings in March. And the reason there were no school shootings in March was because of the fact that there were no, the schools weren't operable.
There was no school. Yeah.
There were schools not operable. But like, it's going back to the talk about bad apples. There are people who just will commit crimes, and like this virus, while it has made everything harder, it's made it harder to commit crimes.
Right.
Like it's hard to rob people when there's no one out. Of course, like it can happen on like a digital way, but that requires like that requires more time and effort than to like actually mug someone. At least like thinking about it in terms of like having to educate yourself enough to like hack and whatnot. And so when you're kind of like trapped inside, well, not trapped, but when you're locked inside of your house with nothing else to do but like talk to other people or read or sleep or entertain yourself in some form of the arts, what you end up doing is just being a lot kinder to people. I would assume. I think that the best in people come out when we're at the worst of times, and that is something that's been self-evident through pretty much every global disaster that has happened.
Yeah, no, that's so great about humanity, is that we're able to be, like you said before, we're able to be so optimistic in the hardest times that we're able to just get together, whether that's physically or virtually, and just kind of have this relatable factor in which we could just tell one another, hey, it's gonna be okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Right. You just you have to beat it for each other. And then like this also, like that builds off of what Cameron was saying about like now you're able to communicate with people more. Is like I think this is, I don't remember who said this quote, but I know this quote is not original. Humans are very social creatures. It's like we seek to be with others. In fact, that was one of the driving forces behind why the internet was made, to share information and communicate with other people, to be there for people. I think that the coronavirus has, in a sense, helped those who are in a stable position. It's grown them even more than just regularly graduating would have. And I don't think that's too egregious of a claim, because going back to the whole like, is it selfish, is it not selfish to want a diploma? When you do get a diploma, that's a very like you thing.
Right.
Like it's very you centric, and then like yes, it's good and worthy and deserving. Like you should like deserve and want that award. But
Exactly.
When you don't get it, you have to look outside.
Well, not necessarily not get it. It's more of the sense not getting it the way you would have wanted to get it.
Right.
Yeah, so it's not, at least in my opinion, it's not a very selfish thought to just say out loud or to say to yourself, hey, this is unfair. It should be the way that it always is. Like, that's not very selfish of someone to say, because everybody's situation is different. Some people aren't going to pursue a higher education. Some people are going to just say, hey, this is it. So I'm sure that people were looking forward to this big day. But like Henry was saying before, you know, some seniors may have thought during the first semester of their 2020 year, they were just saying to themselves, graduation's not that big. I'm just ready to get it over with. It's been a long 4 years. I just want this to be done. But I do agree with the statement. What was that statement you made earlier, Henry? That you don't know what you've lost until...
Yeah, you don't know what you've lost until you've lost it.
Right.
Until it's gone.
Yeah, until it's gone. Right?
Yeah. We all make mistakes here, man. It's all good. Yeah, but no, you like that statement is so true, and not just in the aspect of a high school graduation, but just in life. Like, you don't know what you can get until you go for it. You don't know what you'll lose until it's actually gone.
Right.
So that's why in life you always have to be consistent with something. You always have to move forward in the most harsh of times. You just always have to, just whatever situation you're in, you just gotta say, bang, let's move on to the next one, or just go for the next big goal that you set yourself out for.
Yeah, leave no regrets.
Exactly.
No regrets ever. And honestly, I think that is a very good vibe to end the podcast, unless you guys have any closing thoughts.
No.
No? Okay, hearing a resounding no. Thank you all for joining me on this. We are actually recording on my birthday. I will...
Happy birthday
Happy
to
birthday, Devon.
Thank you so much. And as I turn 18 and proceed into the real world, my consistent drive will be improving this podcast and delivering you guys quality content.
Yes.
As always, thank you for watching. I've been Daquan, and this is the Quixotic Topic. Until next time, this is DP from the QT, signing out.